Well, President Trump is in Davos, Switzerland, of course, today for the World Economic Forum. And the White House says that the president is there to promote his America First agenda and bring business to the U.S. He's also holding bilateral meetings with world leaders along the sidelines. Earlier, Mr. Trump sat down with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The president said Palestinians must return to the peace talk process in order to receive U.S. aid. Mr. Trump also met with British Prime Minister Theresa May. It was their first sit-down since the two leaders traded criticism over the president's retweet of anti-Muslim videos last year. Both leaders insisted that their countries are as close as ever.
The Prime Minister and myself have had a really great relationship, although some people don't necessarily believe that, but I can tell you it's true. I have a tremendous respect for the Prime Minister and the job she's doing, and I think the feeling is mutual from the standpoint of liking each other a lot.
Niall Stanage is a White House columnist for The Hill, joins us now. Niall, the president's trying to convince leaders to invest in the U.S. But what kind of challenges do you think he faces in this type of setting?
Well, there are a couple of challenges. One is that Davos is, by its very nature, a rather elitist gathering, a gathering where certainly almost all the attendees would be very pro-globalization, things of that nature. That is not clearly the platform that President Trump ran on. It's not the way he has governed. So I think there's a lot of skepticism that has to be overcome, even as attendees do recognize that the American economy is doing pretty well.
You know, his past actions, the president's past actions and words over trade and other agreements, how is that going to complicate what he wants to accomplish over there?
Quite significantly. I mean, we've already seen, for example, Emmanuel Macron of France talking about how important these issues have been. Justin Trudeau of Canada doing much the same, talking about the importance of maintaining these kind of multilateral agreements, be that regarding trade, which was what Trudeau was talking about, or even climate change, which was what Macron was talking about. So the America First attitude of the president is problematic, even though his aides, senior people in the administration, keep saying America First is not America alone.
Yeah, we've heard that line being used by members of his cabinet. So when the president met with Prime Minister Theresa May and Benjamin Netanyahu, what do you think were the potentially key points that he needed to make in these bilats?
One of the points in both those cases was simply stressing the close alliance between the United States and the United Kingdom and Israel, respectively. Clearly, as you alluded to in your introduction, the relationship with Prime Minister May is somewhat complicated. That issue last November, when the president retweeted a very far-right British politician, caused a domestic storm in the United Kingdom. There have been other complications in that relationship. Benjamin Netanyahu, a somewhat different figure, a different dynamic there, because, of course, Netanyahu was very welcoming of the American decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
And right before he headed to Davos, the president surprised his own lawyers when he said he'd be open to an interview with Mueller's investigation under oath and wanted to do it as soon as possible. When you look at this from a political standpoint for a second, how important is it for him to go on the record?
It's very important, in my opinion, simply to try to push back against the idea that he has something to hide. Every time the president or his legal team appear to be trying to minimize their engagement or perhaps avoid engagement altogether with Mueller's prosecutors, that is a political problem. We always talk, Rena, as you know, about how important perception is in politics. If the perception is that you are ducking investigators, ducking an interview, then clearly that fuels suspicion. It fuels this sense that you do indeed have something to hide.
Yeah, some would argue perception's everything in politics. Now, I want to ask you lastly, though, about lawmakers who are working on immigration. Yesterday, the president said that he's open to a path for citizenship for these hundreds of thousands of dreamers. But now some conservatives are calling him Amnesty Don. How likely is this to pass in Congress?
It's still an uphill battle. Immigration has been an extremely divisive issue politically here for many, many years. As you know, there have been a number of previous runs at immigration reform. Now, the particular issue of DACA, the Obama-era program, DACA does have some degree of bipartisan support, but once you get into the details, like whether there will be a path to citizenship, it becomes more problematic. There's the pushback from the right that you have just mentioned. On the other hand, were there to be an attempt to reach a deal that there would be no path to citizenship involved, then Democrats are going to be very, very reluctant to go for that. So that just really, I think, exhibits how complicated this issue is.
Yeah, we look forward to Monday to see what the White House reveals on this. Niall Stanage, thank you for joining us, Niall.
Thank you.